back, coming to you live here on YouTube.com, and this is basically a video response to Gemini's challenge. You know, he laid it down to us point blank, and he said, what is your favorite WCW match of all time? Now, before I go into saying what my favorite match is, I'm going to break it down. Now, for you youngsters out there who want to be technical, kind of like how I want to be technical right now, the NWA did not officially become World Championship Wrestling until January of 1991. So, I don't think Gemini is going to be that specific, as he did mention the Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair match being his favorite. I believe the 2 out of 3 falls match being his favorite at the Clash of the Champions. They were technically the National Wrestling Alliance at that time. Even though Ted Turner bought the company, they were still the National Wrestling Alliance. And pretty much at that time, they were really one of few, definitely they were the biggest brand in the National Wrestling Alliance. But they basically embodied that name until early 1991, really until 1990, but officially in early 1991. But on the technical side, pre-1991, I would say my favorite NWA/WCW match had to be Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat at Chi-Town Rumble in February of 1989. It was the pay-per-view right after Starrcade 88. And to me, it really was the first legitimate pay-per-view that was really under the Turner Home Entertainment brand, even though I know that Turner Home Entertainment had already been a part of the brand several months prior to February of 1989. This match had everything that I think I like in wrestling. I know I like in pro wrestling. The fast counts, and the psychology was off the charts. You know, many people talk about Wrestle War 89 and the Clash of the Champions between Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. I don't think any match in their epic feud during that year topped what they did at Chi-Town Rumble. I mean, Teddy Long coming in after the referee referee Tommy Young had some commotion. It was a classic Dusty-like, Eddie Graham-like finish. And, you know, Ricky Steamboat took it home. I mean, the match, me describing it doesn't do its due diligence. It's a match you really need to check out, and with YouTube here, I'm sure you're able to get a clip somewhere, so you definitely need to see that. The match had everything I like. The psychology, the build to the match, which is another form of the psychology, and the fantastic finish that year. And I was like saying to myself, did Ric Flair really lose this championship to Ricky Steamboat? And in case you youngsters out there don't know the build to this match, Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair have been fighting each other for many years, but ever since Ricky left for the WWE around 1984, late 84, early 1985, the two really hadn't met each other until Ricky met each other in the ring again until Ricky left the WWE, I believe around 1988. And then in early 1989, it basically picked up where their feuds during the 70s and the early 80s picked up, with Ricky Steamboat appearing on World Championship Wrestling, taking off Ric Flair's clothes, I mean, and just beating him the heck up. I mean, it was just fantastic stuff. And this was at a time where the NWA/WCW was in turmoil. The company had basically been transitioned from Jim Crockett Promotions all the way on to Ted Turner himself, who purchased the company in late 1988. The Four Horsemen were no more. Tully and Arn had gone to the WWE, become the Brainbusters, and you essentially had Barry Windham, the United States Heavyweight Champion, and of course Ric Flair as the World Champion, managed by James J. Dillon. But J.J. Dillon would eventually leave for the WWE, so now you have Hiro Matsuda, who's basically the manager of Ric Flair now, the organizer, whatever you want to call him. Really didn't make that much sense, but it really didn't affect this angle that Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair had. So at Chi-Town Rumble, Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, without a doubt, my favorite pre-WCW, fully now WCW. Now, if you want to talk about post-NWA WCW 1991, there's one match that sticks in my mind more than any of them, and it was at one of my favorite pay-per-views in World Championship Wrestling called Super Brawl called Super Brawl, but it was the first Super Brawl in St. Petersburg, Florida in May, I think it was May 19th, 1991. I remember it like it was yesterday because my dad helped me record it. It was one of the first wrestling shows, wrestling pay-per-views that I recorded, and I love this pay-per-view, and even more, I love the main event with Ric Flair and Tatsumi Fujinami. But there was one match that stood out above all of them, and it was the match that all wrestling fans at that time, young, old, or whatnot, really wanted to see. And it was the World Tag Team Championship match that I believe won the match of the year in 1991. Lex Luger and Sting challenging the Steiner brothers for the World Tag Team Championship. You want to talk about a match that just blew away everyone. And even though it wasn't as long as I really would have liked, because matches like that you never really want to end, man, both teams did not flick one bit. And the commentary with Jim Ross, once again, folks, people talk about JR and his stuff in WWE, but his stuff in WWE has nothing, and I mean nothing, on the stuff he did when he was in the NWA, the UWF, and in WCW right before he left in 1993. The guy could call one hell of a match, and he proved it again. And it didn't hurt that the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, who was booking at the time, just left the WWE and went back to World Championship Wrestling for the first time since 1988. Helped call the match with him, and he made it great. You know, people crap on Dusty's commentary, but I always liked Dusty's commentary, and you mixed him with Jim Ross. I thought it was just great fusion right there. And to make a long story short, you had Nikita Koloff interfere at the end of the match. Everyone thinking Lex Luger was going to prevail some way, but evidently Nikita Koloff had built this long feud with Lex Luger, and it really dated all the way back to 1987 when Lex Luger defeated him at the Bash for the United States Heavyweight Championship when Lex was a horseman. But now the roles have turned. Lex is a good guy, and now Nikita is a bad guy. He wanted to attack Lex Luger, but he ended up attacking Sting with the Russian chain. And to make a long story short, those two, Sting and Nikita, battle each other backstage as Nikita was trying to cut a promo with Tony Schiavone, and Sting just went nuts, and they ended up fighting each other all the way out to the parking lot in the Bayfront Center. And the Steiner brothers ended up winning the match as a result. Just a phenomenal match, set up a lot of good things. Unfortunately, WCW really couldn't capitalize on them. And this was really the last great match that the Steiner brothers would have in 1991 because Scott Steiner got injured. I believe he injured his shoulder. It was some part of his upper body, I believe, that really got injured. And you had the Steiner brothers relinquish the tag team championship, and it set up the Enforcers winning the tag team championships at the Fall Brawl Clash of the Champions in September of 1991. Really good stuff all the way around. Thanks for really bringing up this topic, Jim and I. I really enjoyed it, and whenever I have an opportunity to talk about old school WCW/NWA, I will not hesitate to give a response. So, thanks, Jim and I, for bringing up the topic, and I'll look forward to seeing more of your videos in the subsequent future. Peace out.